morning, folks. Yeah, I'm squinty-eyed. It's early and the sun's bright. But we got parts. So with that said, here we are. So if you're curious, I'll tell you what, let me reach over here and show you that ugly old worn out dude. So as you should know, we're doing, well, everything clutch related and then a few extras. But as you can see, here's our old clutch, and well, yeah, it's pretty well worn out, especially whenever you compare it to a new one. There's, yeah, substantially more pad. We've also got our bearings. That's going to be our pilot bearing and our throw out bearing. And you see this here and you're like, well, that ain't normal for a clutch. And you're right, it's not. But it's because of this. See, we're going to a 6-fingered unit because the original unit, as I'm sure you've noticed if you've already split yours, is only 3. Well, you might be asking yourself, is it worth going to a 6? Well, I'm going to say yes, it's going to give you more even distribution of pressure. And isn't that what a pressure plate's there to do? Is to provide even pressure. And with 6 fingers, it's going to be more balanced and you're going to have less chance of, you know, smoking it up. So with that said, a 6-finger clutch or 6-fingered pressure plate should really provide you with some benefits. So we are also, if you have not noticed, we're going to do the oil pressure sending unit. As I said in the other video, the upper radiator hose, because it's a leaky mess, and the old safety first device, 3rd or 4th or wherever you put it. Just by the way, just this is just a little helpful bit of advice if you're turning wrenches and you've went to Harbor Freight and you're like, these people don't know what an angle wrench is. That's their idea of an angle wrench, these short wrenches, and they're okay, but they're not great. So let me say this, 13/16, okay? Now, angled wrench, see that? That'll help you. It's going to help you right here on this tractor. So, angled wrenches. The Sunex brand, really cheap. And they were quality. So, you know, if you want my review on Sunex, there it is. They feel good in your hand. They do the job well. And I really felt like it was a quality product. So, glad I found them. Alright. So where we're at here, well, my brand new Harbor Freight bottle jack. I don't know if we just didn't get it tied or what, but it's already all the way to the bottom again. Pretty sure it's at the bottom. Yeah, it's at the bottom. So we'll have to jack it back up. We got to slide the back, and then we've got to replace our pilot bearing and the throw out bearing. So we're gonna get set up and then we'll do just that. So with that said, here we go. Okay guys, so a little what's what. As you can see, I've got all this pulled apart. You're gonna have two sets of drift pins, okay, or roll pins. You're gonna have a small one inside of a large one. So drive out your small one, then drive out your large one. Then you can pull your clutch pedal arm out of the pivot arm, okay? That way, because you're probably in a similar situation where you opened this up and you found that it was leaking, go ahead and take care of your gaskets, okay? So pull these covers off, do your gaskets, put that back, all right? So after you've done that, now you're ready to put your assembly back together. So also, because this has such a wide open spot behind the flywheel, I chose to not do the bread method, but you could have done it on this. I just chose to not use that method. So what I did instead was I pulled my flywheel off, and now we'll drive the bearing down and out. And then we'll flip it over and put our new pilot bearing in. And after that, you'll finally be ready to roll this dude back together. So with that said, I'll bring the camera back up when it's time. Alrighty folks, as you can see, we've got our flywheel off. In this particular case, the rear main seal to the engine is perfect, so we won't have to address that. We've already addressed our gasket here. As I told you before, you're going to want to drive this out, the old one, which I've already done. Could you grab the new one? I'm going to show them in reference. So we've already got our new bearing in. You put it over there somewhere. What I recommend is a 1 1/8" socket. We'll drive that right down in there, and you're just going to drive it all the way down till you seat it, okay? Now, if you're curious, I do not know if this is the factory bearing, and the reason why I'm going to tell you that is there's some very obvious signs that this tractor was split before. I believe this tractor has been split before and has had the clutch worked on it. Now, the gentleman whom we're working for this says that he purchased this as a package deal, which I believe he's saying that he purchased this new. With that said, it really doesn't look like this clutch is factory. Maybe this has been split before he purchased it. I don't know. Anyway, we'll get the flywheel back on, our throw up bearing, and then I'll show you where we're at. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know what to tell you. I'm not, well, look, listen. Quit you laughing, it's a wood chipper. Wouldn't you know it? So, yeah. They're doing some trimming in the back. And wouldn't you know it'd have to happen when we were out here, you know, putting this old girl back together. So you just, you know, what's the odds? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Imagine trying to shoot video and do the things you normally do. Maybe there's something you want to show on how to, and then imagine every time you go about it, there's some silly wind noise or some piece of equipment in the background chewing trees. Kind of reminds me of Murder Cat, though. Did you see Murder Cat or Murder Kitten? Maybe there'll be links. Maybe not. Maybe you'll have to go look for that video. It's kind of funny. I'm just gonna give it a second. Okay. Shiny new throwout bearing with its apparatus. You see there? Springs hooked up. See it? Springs back. Alright, so we're gonna set the hood off this thing. And maybe you'll get some time lapse and show you rolling the two segments together, and because we're there, we're ready to bolt this baby back up. So with that said, here we go. Morning, folks. It is a different day. These things happen. But looky there. Oh, it ain't complete. Don't get too excited. But it is together. There's no jacks needed. Yep. There's a lot of button-up work left to do, though. So, with that said, we've still got to, well, we've got to plumb all our hydraulics, our electrical. We got a couple of linkages to reconnect. We got to mount the hood back in place. We've got to put our starter back on. We've got our hydraulic pairing valve right there. Has to go back here. We've got a fuse box and whatnot. And then we need to adjust our clutch. I'm going to show you about that. So, oh, and we need to replace our seat belt. So, and we also have to, after we do have everything together, we're going to inspect our instrument cluster and see what's going on, because the customer has told us that he's having a problem with the instrument cluster. It just flat isn't working. So we'll hit it with a test light and see if we've got power, and if so, then I guess we'll meter it out and see what's what. With that said, we'll put you on some time lapse, possibly, and we'll try to get this thing going. I'm ready for it to go. So, with that said, oh, there will be a third video. Do you see the nasty mess under both front wheels? Well, guess what? That's leaky wheel seals, and we're gonna fix that. Does your AK2080 or whatever name your Jinma tractor happens to have, Ag King or whatever, do you have leaky front wheel seals? Well, in the next video, we'll show you how to fix that. So, with that said, we're gonna pull this hood off and we're gonna get after it. So, there we go. Okay folks, I'm gonna give you a real quick lesson here. Okay, we'll make this real simple. If you're doing a 3-finger clutch, you only got to do it 3 times. But if you got to do it 6-finger clutch, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But if it ain't, yeah, that means 6 times. So if you'll notice, there are 2 nuts and then that rod that goes across. Okay, now if say your finger is too far away, all right, then what you would do is run your nut out. Okay, but if you've already got tension on the fingers, what you're going to do is want to run the nut in to let the tension off. Okay, so with that said, you're going to do that 6 times until the finger is just lightly touching the throwout bearing. Okay, listen, you don't have to go as far as to do all these measurements and whatnot. Okay, turn it to where you can see your fork, and you want that fork to just barely touch the throwout bearing. If you get it to where it just barely touches that throwout bearing, you're in good shape. Okay, you're still going to want to crank it up, and you're going to want to check it. All right, whenever you depress the clutch fully and engage your PTO, and you start letting off of your clutch, about halfway through the travel of that clutch is when you want that PTO to start turning. Okay, so make sure that whenever you're about halfway through your clutch pedal travel, that the PTO starts, and then that way whenever you go ahead and release the pedal, the tracker starts moving right close to the top. Okay, do that and it's going to work for you. Okay folks, we are very close Okay, all the electrical except for the headlights. You don't really care about headlights, do you? Maybe you work in the dark, maybe you do. So headlights, main battery post. I've already got our fuel system hooked up. I've already primed it. That dude leaks a little bit, but you know what? I bet it'll work. So if you're curious, you got to look this up and you're like, how much fluid does all this take? And like, where do you do it? All right. Here's where you put it in, right next to the shifter, okay? Next to the shift machine. You put it right there, okay? 2.4 gallons. Well, American, we'll give it to you in gallons. I don't know the liters. Okay? And then, right here, on the back of the tractor, under your seat, that's where you're gonna add the hydraulic fluid. 3.4 gallons, okay? 3.4 gallons, that's how much hydraulic fluid you're gonna need in this unit. So, yeah, if you're keeping track, it's just over 5 gallons, 5.5. That's great. Where are you getting that other half gallon from? Come on, China. Couldn't you make it all into 5 gallons? I mean, just a little convenient. Just saying. It'd been nice. But anyway, okay. With that said, we're going to get our drive shaft in, our battery cable on, and then before we put our hood and our front end loader back together, we're going to crank this dude, give it the old shakedown and make sure it moves, does its thing. And then we'll stick the hood front end loader back on it, and I guess that part will be complete, huh? And then we'll maybe we'll wrap a video. Anyway, we'll see. All right, folks, it is a different day. I kept finding a little water leak. It took a while to actually figure out where it was coming from. It was kind of tricky. If you remember, we replaced this hose right here because of that blowout right there. I thought it was kind of an odd spot to have a blowout, and well, soon to found the culprit. Give me a second, let me toss that out of the way. Brought us back to the water neck, and as you can see, this water neck, I've already had it repaired, but there was a crack right there where that blowout was, and it was a little pinhole, so whenever it get warm, it'd just go ahead and spray that through, you know, from warm pressure. So that's what ate the hose up to begin with, but that's got that addressed. It's not beautiful, but a local shop welded it because I'm not a welder, and nor do I possess the skills to weld aluminum. Aluminium for you European folks. Thanks for watching, by the way. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Hey, we're a growing channel, we could use it. So, with that said, I just got the parts in to put this baby the rest of the way together. And I guess what that brings us to is that's a wrap for this particular video. So keep your eyes out and peeled for part 3. I'm sorry this video took so long to actually deliver, but well, I got sick. What can I say? I have asthma, and every now and then in the early summer, for some reason, I get symptoms similar to pneumonia, or I get pneumonia. Either way, took a little bit. So I'm recovering now and things are getting better. But with that said, thanks for watching Vintage Diesel Equipment Service. We'll see y'all in the next video.